Hi everybody, it's Amy, also known as Aussie Stitcher in Texas, here on Flosstube and over on Instagram. I'm here with you today at the end of June to film a mid-year WIP parade. So I am kind of one day early, but my week's pretty busy and I still need to film my regular update tomorrow, and I do try to keep that on the first where I can. So we're going to film this mid-year WIP parade today, upload it later today, so it's pretty true and accurate to kind of my first half a year of stitching for 2025. So I just want to say thank you to all of my returning viewers. Thank you for coming back. Hello to anybody new. You know, words. I know a lot of people find new Flosstubers to watch during WIP parade seasons. So thank you for coming to join me. For a little bit about me, in case you don't know, I am Australian, but I do live in Texas. I've been here for the past 10 years in total in the US. So absolutely love Texas. The summers could be a little bit cooler, but you know, it is what it is, that's life. But let's jump into my WIP parade. I have 16 projects in total from a wide variety, from full coverage to smaller pieces. I'm not a big sampler person, but I do love to stitch, and I do like the variety that I have is what I like, and that's what this hobby is about. It's what we like to stitch, isn't it? So I'm going to do this in chronological order based on my oldest pieces down to my most recent start, which was just on Friday. So if anybody who watches my regular updates, you'll get some when you watch tomorrow. Some things won't be a surprise because you will have seen it, but for anybody who's new and has never seen my my stitching before, welcome, and I hope you enjoy it. I will also be putting up pictures of what they looked like at the beginning of the year, if I do have that photo. I think I do for all but one of my pieces. I deleted it and can't get it back, and I've never been able to get great screenshots from just watching my previous video. So, but most of them will have a good photo of where it was at the beginning of the year versus where it is now and how much progress I have gotten. Everything I stitch on is a digital pattern in Pattern Keeper, so I do have stats for those of you who like to look at those statistics and everything. And if I'm looking over to my left, it's because I've got windows and windows open on my computer to show those stats and for dates of when I started things. So let's jump right into it. My first is my biggest piece. This is a full coverage by Josephine Wall, but charted by Heaven and Earth Designs, and that is Alternative Reality. I'm stitching this on an 18 count aida, 2/1 full cross. Here is what it looks like at the beginning of the year. And for your stats people, I started this, on July 13th of 2023. So it is my oldest piece. I have stitched on it this year every month. So my goal is to stitch on it every month to get it finished in a certain amount of time. And I have stitched 14,896 stitches so far this year. And here's where we're up to. Gotta bring her back. Ooh. Look how cool she looks. So yeah, almost 15,000 stitches for the year. So I'll bring her in close. So I am on track. You know, I want to do about 2,000 stitches a month or 25,000 stitches a year. And it being the halfway mark, I am past, I've done more than 12,500. So I'm very happy with that. So in total on her, there is 119,200 stitches, and I have done 58,038, which is 48.7%. So in about a month or two, I should be at that 50% mark, which I'm very happy about. What was I gonna say about this piece? Oh, I did wanna say, and I keep meaning to say this every time, I leave that like that, is for those who aida is so stiff to work on. It is, don't get me wrong, but I've noticed this is really starting to soften up over the kind of 2 years I have been working on it. Trying to keep these in some semblance of order is going to be difficult. Okay. So that is WIP number 1. WIP number 2 is my Faces of Faery, another Heaven and Earth Designs charted piece. This one's by Jasmine Beckett Griffith this time. This is Faces of Faery 193. I have the goal to finish this year, so this is another piece I work on every month for a certain amount of stitches to see the finish at the end of the year. Here's what she looked like at the beginning of the year. I started this on October 29th of 2023. So far this year I have done 9,725 stitches. This is a 16 count aida, 2/1 full cross. This is the companion piece to the Black Swan, which I have finished. I finished that maybe 2 years ago, not last year, maybe the year before. I filmed a finished parade, I think last month, and she's being shown in there if you'd like to go watch that. But she is a total of 30,625 stitches, and I have done 21,821. I am at 71.3%. She's so pretty. And then I love how, as much as this is so much confetti, but it really looks, it's like the bauble where the swan is going to be in. It really does look like glass. That's what I was going for. So my stitching method on Alternative Reality, I am doing Royal Rose and parking. For anything else, I don't park. I've realized I don't love the parking method, but for Alternative Reality, because there are some spaces that are so much confetti, if there is only a couple of stitches to finish off my thread, I will finish that off. But if there's a lot, I'll leave that parked and come back to it another time. Okay. Next up in my pieces is Hyperborea by Owl Forest Embroidery. I am stitching this with all of the kit materials. So the Owl Forest threads, the Owl Forest material, which is a 32 count Murano. I cannot remember the color, I'm sorry. And I started this on January 1st of 2024, so it has had its 1 year birthday. Here's what it looked like at the beginning of the year, if I hadn't thrown that up earlier. This is a long, kind of narrow piece. Here is where it is now. Nice. Owl Forest threads are great to work with, and they don't really tangle. There's good variegation. For this piece, oh wait, I'm on the wrong tab, so I'll show that in a moment. We'll get you nice and close so you can see. So for this one, so far this year I've stitched 4,551 stitches. It is currently, it has 16,494 stitches, and I've done 12,735 for 77.2%. So this is one that, you know, will be finished this year. There's less than 4,000 stitches left on it, if I could fold this properly. So it will be finished this year. Okay, next up, let's get everything back on track. So this will be WIP number, that was WIP number 3. So WIP number 4 is You Belong to Me by Long Dog Samplers. If I can find the cover page. So this is what it will look like when it's finished. I started this on May 7th of 2024. I am stitching this on a 40 count verdal in the color Gold Rush by BeStitchMe, and I'm using 3842 for the thread. What it looked like at the beginning of the year and what it looks like now. So on this one, I've stitched 5,920 stitches so far this year. I've got the full width, not the length yet, but I will be working my way down to get there so I can make sure that, I mean, it should fit. I measured like 100 times to make sure. And this has a whopping, if I go to the right one, 41,963 stitches. I have done 11,933 to be at 28.4%. I'm loving the blue on the gold. Next up in my list, number 5 is Witch's Hallow by Autumn Lane Stitchery. This was in their Halloween box a few years ago. Sorry about the glare. I'm stitching this on a 32 count Rubios by Under the Sea Fabrics. It was a Fabric of the Month Club, again, a couple of years ago. I'm stitching this with CXC floss as well. So a little bit different, but coverage is fantastic. Here's what she looked like at the beginning of the year. And let me go to my next tab. Here is what it looks like now. So this is another one. I have the full width of the piece. I've stitched on this one, let's go to the right line, 4,210 stitches this year. This one I manually charted so I could have it in Pattern Keeper. It has 22,021 stitches. I've stitched in total 10,768 to be at 48.9%. So no goals for this one as far as, you know, wanting to have it finished within a certain amount of time. It just comes out when I feel like it. It's a good blocky stitch, although sometimes the Owl Forest threads can be a little bit, like I've got to use my needle threader thingy because they can just be a little bit fuzzy, but the coverage is absolutely amazing, especially for that black. There is zero show through on that at all. Absolutely none. Next up, down, go there, is my USA Quaker Flag by Vivsters on Etsy. I am doing this one. It's the reversed image. So rather than stitching the motif, you stitch around it, and the motif is that negative space. So it's more stitches, but I like that effect better. I'm stitching this on a 40 count verdal. Here's what it looked like at the beginning of the year, using CXC floss as well. Because again, I wanted that nice full coverage. Here's where we're up to. Oh, I tried to fold it and I folded it wrong. So I did change the colors a little bit. I'm not using the called for. I brightened up because the blue was a little bit more of a blue gray, and the red was the red I'm using the same, but then the gray, which ghosts a little bit on camera, but in person and when you get up close, you can see it, it's very clear. So for this one, I have stitched 4,272 stitches this month. No, not this month, this year. It has 48,208 and I'm at 11,885 for 24.7%. Gradually making my way through. Again, another good one because it's block color. You know, I can just pull, thread up 3 needles and just go. Does require a bit of counting though, obviously, to make sure you're getting those Quakers correct, which at times is not fun. Oh, I do have the image of the other one to show. So this is the one I'm doing. Oh, it's upside down. This is the one I'm doing. And then this is the non-reversed. So that's where you stitch, with the exception of the blue. The blue is the same, but the white and the red, you're stitching the motif versus stitching the space. But when you buy the pattern, you get both options, so you can pick and choose to your heart's content. Okay, next up, as we fly through, is Quaker Pumpkins. This is one I don't have what it looked like at the beginning of the year, but here's what it looked like. It will look like when it's finished. Quaker Pumpkins by Hallow from Liz Mathews. This is being stitched on a 40 count verdal in the color, let's have a look. Grogg, yes. Grogg by BeStitchMe. I was in her Fabric of the Month Club for a while, so I have a lot of her stuff, a lot of her fabric that I'm working my way through. Here is where I'm up to. So I've stitched 3,423 stitches so far this year on this piece. I have the full width. I am going to change, so where it says All Hallows Eve at the bottom, I'm changing that to, I think it's Autumn Harvest, that Georgia Girl Stitching recharted. just so it can be up for a little bit longer, and from there. So this, it has 12,429 stitches. I've done 9,185 for 73.9%. So this is another one that will be finished this year. It's got less than 4,000 stitches, and when I pull it out, I do try to get 2,000 stitches on it for each rotation. So 2 more months and that will be done. I might break that up into like maybe 1,600 blocks just because I can. Next up is one of my fancy, well, the only fancy lady really I have on the go at the moment. That is Persephone by Mirabilia. Here's what she will look like when she's finished. For the most part, I have decided not to stitch the background because I just didn't want to. I think my fabric, I like my fabric, and I want her to stand out. The background is beautiful, but it's a Karen Water Lilies, and I'm just not sure how that variegation, you know, sometimes variegation looks great and sometimes it just looks too stripy. So I'm glad I decided to pull out and not do that, but everything else is called for. I'm stitching this on a 32 count Lugana in the color Briar Rose by Fabrics by Stephanie. Here's what she looked like at the beginning of the year. I realized I haven't been saying everything. If I have, I'm repeating myself about. So You Belong to Me, I started on May 7th of 2024. Which is Hallow, I started on May 27th of 2024. USA Quaker Flag, July 16th, 2024. Quaker Pumpkins, August 25th of 2024. And then Persephone, the 24th of October, 2024. I'll throw up now what she looked like at the beginning of the year. This one has had some progress if you watched my last video where she was being shown. So I've done all of the back stitching on her face and her arms. So she has a face. Absolutely love it. And her hands. I did some of the back stitching in her like headpiece. All that blank space kind of where her ears are, it will be beads. So I bead at the end, and now it's just really working on her mammoth dress. But she's absolutely gorgeous. She's another one that I charted so I could have it in Pattern Keeper, and let me tell you the difference that it makes in stitching, especially something that goes across 2 pages, like Mirabilia patterns tend to do because they're so large. It makes it so much easier. I couldn't get the back stitch in because I used Pattern Keeper, and that was difficult enough trying to go between page to page. So I can tell you with a certain amount of confidence, it is possible I've missed stitches because that happens and I update as I go when I realize something looks odd. But there's 27,199 stitches and beads combined. And then I've done 11,610, and they're for 42.7% of the overall piece. So that includes beads. And she does have a lot of beads. Okay. Next up, as we continue on, for Persephone so far this year, I've done 6,361 stitches on her. Next up is Cabin in the Woods by Flossabilities, which I started on October 26th, so 2 days after Persephone of 2024. Here's what it will look like when it's finished. I'm stitching this on a 32 count Lugana in the color Charcoal by Zweigart, I believe, or Witchold, one or the other. I got it from 123 Stitch. So here's what it looked like at the beginning of the year, because I do have that. And here's where we're up to now. I absolutely love how the colors play on this charcoal fabric. It looks so good. So this piece I have stitched on for 2,824 stitches this year. It has 8,979. I've done 6,674 to be at 74.3%. So that is Cabin in the Woods. All right. Next up is a Luca S kit that I picked up, I think from 123 Stitch. It is King of the Flowers. Where is my cover page here? Does it tell me who the actual artist is? It does, I can't pronounce it. So the King of the Flowers, this is the photo, and that is the artist down the bottom. But I saw this on somebody's channel, I cannot remember for the life of me, and was just like, wow, I need to get that. So I did. This is stitched on a 16, using all the kit materials, 16 count aida, using their flosses. I have stitched on this for 4,220. This is what it looked like at the beginning of the year. Do I have this one for the beginning of the year? Yes, so I started this on December 19th. This is the last of my 2024 whips. Here is what it looks like so far. Is that the right way? Yes. Yes, it goes that way. So top left start, working my way in the flowers. This has a total of 40,000 stitches. I've done 7,273 to be at 18.2%. This is one that it goes into Pattern Keeper. I bought the kit, but then I emailed them to request the PDF, which they emailed, you just have to kind of show proof of purchase. So I had to show a picture of the kit, and they emailed me the PDF. I put that into Pattern Keeper. Because they use their own colors, I did have to, on their website or on the internet somewhere, I found a conversion. So I put in what the DMC equivalent is, and then I'm just stitching by the symbol, obviously. But because some of theirs have, like it might say the color is 3828, but they have 2 shades of it. The DMC equivalent is 3828, but they've got 2 shades. So that's why I've got to make sure I'm always cross-referencing the symbol and not just going by the number, but at least it makes it easier on my floss ring if I'm looking for 3828 to go to that section, and if, double check if there's 2 of them, then I'll just cross-reference the symbol. That's how I do that. So now we have my 2025 whip. So everything I've started so far this year, which is 6 projects, so 10 carried over from 2024 and a couple from 2023. And then I've started 6 things this year. First off is Deadly Aquarium by Lola Crow Crossstitch. I started this well and truly after the sale was completed on January 12th. So kind of a new year, new start. I am stitching this on a 32 count Lugana in the color Neptune by Under the Sea Fabrics. Know where it was at the beginning of the year because I started that this year, so this is the first time on a whip parade. And here is where we're up to. So I did a center start, worked my way up, and then over to the right because I had heard from people that crocodile had a lot of confetti, so I wanted to get that over with. And it did have a lot of confetti, but it looks absolutely amazing. And then I'll continue to work my way up and over and then down like I normally do. But I love how the coral looks. Looks absolutely amazing. There is some backstitch on the coral, the green coral in the middle. You can't really tell. So I've done some and not others. So I don't know if I will. Just like there's also some cross stitch in there's cross stitch everywhere, but there's some back stitch in the crocodile. And again, I can't really see it. So I'm starting to pick and choose where I do the back stitch because, back stitch slows me down because, I'm looking at paper and just, it's not always clear of, it's not just a cross, over 2 or over 1 if you're on an aida or doing an over 1 on a higher count, that's takes time. I'm cross-referencing paper. I'm, marking it off to make sure I can keep up with what I'm doing. So I'm now like, if it doesn't make sense if I don't feel like it's going to show and enhance the piece, I'm not doing it. But that's just me. Have I said how much I've done on this? So on Deadly Aquarium, It is 18,622 stitches. It is 8,000, I have done 8,142 for 43.7%. Next up is a piece by Vlada X Stitch. She doesn't name her pieces on Etsy. It's just got like a random code. So I'm just calling it Night Bee. I am doing this on an 18 count Aida with all the called for DMC colors. And here's where I'm up to. Also Pattern Keeper compatible. It has 7,820 stitches. I've done 3,579 for a total of 45.8%. Again, lots of block color. This is maybe a piece that this is a piece that I travel with if I'm traveling, because, you know, 18 count, very easy to see. Lighting doesn't have to be perfect, you know, like it does when I've got like a 40 count or working on a darker fabric. So that's a good travel piece. Then I have, did I say when I started that? I started that on March 22nd of 2025. Next up is Woodland Enchantress, which I started on April 14th of 2025. I am stitching this is a dimensions kit. I'll throw up the photo of what it will look like. I don't have the wrapper thing that it comes in normally. This I also emailed the dimensions, but it's not Dimensions itself, it's another company and I can't remember, to get the digital copy. It does not go into Pattern Keeper perfectly, meaning it doesn't read any of the symbols, but I can at least mark it off. I can't search for symbols or anything like that, but I can at least mark it off to get my count. So this has approximately 43,000 stitches. Because of the way it's uploaded to Pattern Keeper, there is a bit of a border with no stitching and it counts those as stitches. So it's not exactly, but it's about 43,000. I've done 2,322 for a whopping 5.3%. And I'm just up in that top corner. I replaced out the kit fabric because the margins were like 1.5 inches and I just can't work with that for my peace of mind. I use a Q-snap and it's just not enough to have it in there. Okay, next up is The Pirate, or Snowman number 9 by Cottage Garden Samplings. Here's what it will look like. Ooh. When it's finished. I'm stitching this on a 32 count Lugana in the color Proserpina from Under the Sea Fabrics. Using all the called for with the exception of the fancy floss. I'm using one I had in stash, which is Raspberry by Color and Cotton that I got in a box. And that is his like jacket color and a little bit in the bird. But nice and fun to work on. Another piece that I recharted so it could be in Pattern Keeper. So it is 7,913 stitches. I've done 4,008. For a total of 50.7%. So most of the stitching is in this Snowman and then like one of the ships, and then there's smaller ships as well. But just an offcut I had that this was perfectly sized for. All right, two more. Okay, next up is Star Dragon by Owl Forest Embroidery. I started this on May 25th of this year. Here's what it will look like when it's finished. I am using the DMC conversion for all but the red. The red I am using a Weeks Dye Works Raspberry. I think the Snowman is strawberry and this is raspberry. It's a lot of fruits, or vice versa. But I had it in my stash and I wanted to use it up. This is a 40 count verdal in the color something. Macchiato. And here's what I'm up to. So I got some of that read in. I've done all of page 1 because it doesn't upload to Pattern Keeper perfectly. It kind of loads each page. It's together, but the symbols, it kind of reads each page individually. So if you've got, you know, the symbol A on every page, it's going to give you, you know, there's 18 pages, it's going to give you kind of 18 lines of that color, which is a little bit painful. So I'm trying to go page by page so I can kind of zero out colors to shorten the list. but this has 33,063 stitches. I have done 2,502 for 7.6%. But it's not a huge amount of variegation in that red, but you know, I like it. I would have liked to use the Owl Forest threads like I'm doing for Hyperborea, but when I priced it, it was not conducive to me doing this. Plus it would have taken a long time to get here and I really wanted to start it. So I just used the DMC conversion and then that red that I have in stash, which I will most likely need to buy another one of because it's going to use more than one skein. And then if I can put this in without breaking things or bending, there we go. Next up is my final start for well, not the final because it won't be, but the most recent start of 2025. This is the Imperion sale by Forbidden Fiber Co., the fourth wing series. I did buy the kit. Here's what it will look like when it's finished. I haven't printed out the cover page yet. I started this just this last Friday, so on the 26th. I'm using the called for, so everything in the kit. So that is it's a 28 count Lugana in the color of Feathertail. And then I'm using her flosses as well. So forgive my extra fabric I had to attach. Here's where we're up to. So I've done a question mark number on this. Hold on, I haven't written that down. Imperion, 2,244 stitches out of 6,220. So I am at whatever that percentage is. But the gripe that I'm having, what is that? Oh, that's the lightning. I thought it was extra thread. This is the margin on the sides. And I did a center start, so it's not like I did a whoopsie. I did a center start and I've got 1.5 inches, I think, on each side. And not much more on the top, maybe 2 inches. So I attached an extra piece on the top. I did have one on the side, but I don't have a sewing machine. I just like roughly hand sewed it and it's already come off. If I knew how to stitch in hand, I would just stitch in hand when I got to those sections, which I may still need to learn to do because I do much prefer Q-snap stitching. I've got nurge hoops, but I'm nervous about putting my stitches over the nurge, at least in a Q-snap, I put felt over the stitching, so I don't have to worry about it that way. Gives it a little bit of cushion, but yeah, using all of her floss that came with the kit, so it's slightly variegated. I'm stitching it like it's a proper variegated. I don't really see any variegation, but I'm stitching it, one cross at a time. Okay. And that is my 16 projects that I have. So let's do a proper count. So 2 from 2023, one of which will be finished this year. That's my Faces of Faery. Alternative Reality, I want to have finished in a total of 5 years. So I think that's on the schedule for like 2020. I'll be over 50% this year, and then I'm trying to do 25% each year. So that should be finished in 2027. I do, like I said, 2,000 stitches a month, but if I'm feeling more, I do. That's a piece that I'm trying to pull out when I'm like, oh, what should I stitch on? Nothing's calling to me, but I want to stitch. I've told myself that Alternative Reality is that piece that I'll pull out so I can get more progress on it, because I don't want it languishing for 100 years. If you watch my last WIP Parade or some of my last pieces, you'll notice there are 2 pieces that are not in there. I did UFO, Visit Narnia by Country Magic Stitch, and Autumn by Alexandra V. Bark. That's a Heaven and Earth Designs. I just wasn't, I have a lovely spreadsheet that tells me kind of the stitching that I have and the stitching that I do, and I do like a monthly, I have like a monthly calendar view so I can see when I'm not stitching on a piece. And for that piece, for those 2 pieces, I hadn't stitched on them at all this year. I wasn't feeling the urge to stitch on them. There will be months where, a piece goes a couple of months without being stitched just because other things are calling to me. But that doesn't mean that, you know, I don't want to stitch on it at all. But with these two pieces, I just wasn't feeling it. They're absolutely beautiful, especially that Autumn by Alexandra V. Bark. It's absolutely stunning. It's just, it's almost 400,000 stitches, and I needed to have like a little bit of a reality check with myself to go, are you ever really going to finish this? Because I do enjoy the process of stitching, but I also want to see something at the end of the day, you know, or at the end of 20 years. And I wasn't going to be stitching on something for 20 years. And I feel like that's how long this piece would have taken me. It doesn't help that sometimes with Heaven and Earth Designs, when you do that top start, you're just in background, which sometimes is just not very exciting. And that's where I was, you know, because I started in the top left-hand side. So it just wasn't calling to me. So I was like, you know what, just take it out of the rotation. I haven't unpicked it or anything or thrown out the fabric for either of those pieces. So, you know, if something happens and they call to me again, I still have the pattern, I still have all the floss. I bought CXC for the autumn piece, so that's not like affecting my general stash. And then for the Visit Narnia, which was using DMC, I just de-kitted that and put that back in, put those colors back into stash, because it's only about 6 colors. So again, if I do want to pull it back out, it's not hard for me to re-kit that back up again. But that is all my pieces. For all of you stitch count people, I have done, is everything in here? Hold on. Oh no, let's add this one. Let's add my Imperion to see where I'm at. Okay, so I have done so far this year 94,746 stitches. That's kind of crazy. For reference, again, for anybody who likes that kind of stuff, in total last year I did almost 175,000 stitches. So my average is up, which I'm liking. My monthly average is up. Is that sustainable? Probably not. You know, it is probably not sustainable, but you know, I like it. I like seeing those numbers. I like seeing progress on my pieces. Like I said, I do want pieces to be finished. I'm terrible at fully finishing things unless it's like a fancy lady that I go and get framed. But I have them just hanging up in my closet. I'll flip through every now and then. So, you know, I'm not here for the product on the wall, it seems like, again, unless it's a fancy lady. But I do very much enjoy it. But thank you everybody for, you know, hanging around, who has watched this video. I hope you enjoyed the 2025 Mid-Year WIP Parade. I hope you all have a fantastic day ahead. If you liked the video, please consider hitting that little like button. And if you're not already a subscriber, feel free to subscribe. I do uploads monthly. So on the 1st of each month, unless I'm traveling, I will upload the previous month's progress. So just a monthly upload. I like having a good chunk of progress to show everybody. So that's why I do monthly uploads. But thank you again. Have a fantastic day and happy stitching, everybody. Bye.